Hello. This doesn't look right. Why did it get stuck? Oh my. My webcam stopped working. Okay. Okay. Hello. Can everybody see and hear me well? Let's see how I'm gonna do this. Can I pop this out? Oh, you can do slow mode on here. That's dope. Pop out chat. There we go. Put it over here. All right, guys. How's it going? Let me tweet out a thing. Let people know that I'm live, I guess. Does it tell me on this page how many people are? Okay, yeah, 18. Sweet. Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing on this fine Sunday afternoon? It's afternoon here in Birmingham, Alabama, where I am. It's 3:25 p.m. I actually meant to start the stream at 3. I feel like that's too. I need to adjust the. I need to adjust the camera, but it's too much. It's overexposed. Fix it. That's how I test to see if my camera's overexposed. If I can see, if you can't see my teeth, like if it's just a white blur. But anyway, that's fine. So this is about the time. If you don't know, thanks to I told everyone that if my Patreon reached $750 a month, that I would begin a weekly live stream, and people very quickly reached their goal. So this is, I guess, the first of the weekly live streams. The live streams will usually be on Sunday and probably around this time. So if that's a good time for you, that's cool. And if it's not, I don't know. I'm sorry. Actually, the chat is too far away. I'm gonna move it over here. No, I'm not using my teeth for white balance. Although I think using my teeth, I think because I just have the camera set to auto do everything, and it may be using my teeth to white balance, so that's cool. But it's a little too blue, but that's fine. Earlier, like I'm sitting in front of my window, and it was just like too much light, so I just kind of look stupid. So I just shut the window or shut the blinds. So I figured that something that we could do, because I'm like kind of on a campaign to get more support for YouTubers that talk about things from a progressive point of view, because there's sort of like a shit lord mentality that's kind of taken over YouTube to some extent. It hasn't taken over YouTube because none of like the very biggest YouTubers are like this, but there's like a very in the space of like social justice, politics, pop culture, criticism, things like that. This sort of like anti-progressive mentality has sort of taken over. So I'm on a like campaign to try to get more support for progressive YouTubers. So I was thinking one of the things we can do for the stream is just like watch some of the people that have been suggested, and maybe just like, you know, do a little what's the word, exhibition of just some videos. And some of these people I haven't even checked out myself. A lot of them were just suggestions given to me, and usually if someone was suggested more than one time, I just go ahead and put them in the list. I'm sorry if you can hear that train. I moved near a train track, so I hear trains every now and then. I don't know if you can hear it, but I don't think that PewDiePie is a huge shitlord, but or at least not in the way that I mean. And so I don't, because of the way YouTube works, it's hard for certain types of YouTubers to naturally grow, because YouTube really rewards people that can just pump out content, you know, every day, every other day, things like that. And so if your content has to be like well researched, or it takes a lot of time to shoot and edit and things like that, it's going to take time, and those videos just don't naturally get promoted by YouTube. So that's why you need strong support from the audience. And if you look at the progressive YouTubers that are succeeding, the reason that they're succeeding is because they have strong support from their audiences. So I was thinking that's something we could do. I have a long list of people. Hopefully none of these people mind me sharing their work. I assume that they wouldn't. Usually when you make stuff on the internet, you do it so other people can see it. But I mean, we don't have to do it right now, but we can do that at some point. So I have a message. I have this, like they added a new feature on YouTube where YouTube can automatically hold comments that might be inappropriate, and then you could show or hide them. But it seems like it holds any comment that has a swear word in it, which is not useful. So I might turn that off. Comment sections tend to be toxic and counterproductive even on progressive channels. I don't agree with that. I think the YouTube comment section has always been pretty bad, but it has never been this bad. And I think that in general, the comment section on progressive YouTubers is way better. And the only time that it's not better is when when anti-progressive fans come and invade other people's comment section. So I don't know if that's actually true. I mean, sometimes it is, but I don't, on average, I don't think it's anywhere close. And I'm not really talking about comment sections. I'm talking about the actual YouTubers themselves. The creators and their fans are sort of two different categories that you have to deal with in two different ways. Do you think there's a right-wing backlash happening right now within young people in general? I don't like describing it as a right-wing backlash. I think that there is a anti-progressive backlash, but I think that young people are especially conducive to that because young people are often very cynical and easily impressionable. But like, for example, I don't think that there's a I don't think like anti-gay sentiment is growing, for example. That's something that I would consider like a right-wing sentiment. But I think just this idea of like everyone's too politically correct, or this idea of everyone's a special snowflake, like those aren't right-wing ideas, but they're definitely anti-progressive ideas. I asked for Sam Harris, Islam is worse than Christianity. Well, I'm not going to click on the links right now, but you can tweet them at me or something, and I'll look at them in a minute. Or if you can just tell me the quote. I think most young people are on the left, and I think most people are on the left in general. But the left is just very disorganized and the left is really bad at strategy. That's like the problem with the left. The right is way better. The right is very good at making themselves seem more influential and more and they're better at strategy, and they're better at winning, basically, even though there's less of them. Don't make fun of me and my natural ice. That's all I have. Also, don't make fun of me that I'm drinking a beer at 3 p.m. But I'm grown. This is one of the things you can do when you get grown. You can have a drink whenever you want. The left can't meme. I see that. I don't agree with that. I think the left is actually quite good at memeing. I think that's one thing that the left is better at than the right. Like, right-wing memes are pretty bad most of the time. Like, but there's the aspect of the shitlord culture. Like, they're good at memes because they're young and they're like internet savvy. But I think the left is bad at strategic memes. The left has a better sense of humor than the right. But in terms of like strategic political memes, I guess the left is worse at that for sure. When it comes to politics, the right they're just really good at making everything work in their favor. That's why we still have the Electoral College, because it benefits Republicans. There's no other reason for us to have that. But the reason that anyone who tries to bring up the fact that we don't need the Electoral College anymore, it will be vehemently opposed, is because it benefits Republicans. Do you think the left lost the connection to young people somehow? I don't think so. I mean, I think young people are are very vocal. I think that some left-wing parties have lost the connection to young people, like the Democrats in America. They've definitely lost the connection to young progressives. But I don't think the young people themselves have lost the connection to progressivism. How do you feel about the notion of the left having a problem by refusing to let anything just be fun? Like everything has to be examined deeply to see if it's problematic. Well, I think I'm of two minds of that, because a lot of stuff has always been problematic, but no one was in a position to really say anything about it, or they felt like they couldn't say anything about it because it would be socially damaging, or they could lose their job, stuff like that. So it's not like people all of a sudden just started getting sensitive and saying everything's problematic. Like some things are just insensitive, and it's the era where people are not letting others get away with being assholes anymore. But at the same time, I do think there's a problem in the left where everything is problematic. Like, it's like, not to the point where everything is problematic, but it's everything is evil, and everything is like everybody is on thin ice, and if you say one wrong thing, then sorry, you're out of the club now, or like sorry, like we completely disown you, or like if a company makes one wrong move, then it's like, okay, sorry, we're done with you. And that's kind of a problem. And that's part of why I say the left is really bad at strategy, because they're really quick to cast aside potential allies based on, I think most things probably are problematic, but once you understand that there's a lot of problematic stuff going on, then you should understand that people are trying, even if they're not always succeeding. You got to give them some kind of credit for trying. I don't think I have a link of the previous live stream. Yeah, I mean, I think the right is capable of cannibalizing themselves, but I think they do it far less. Like I don't think it's close. The left can sometimes mistake the ignorant for the hateful. Yes, I also think that sometimes the left does not care about the distinction between ignorant and hateful. And I think there's a level where ignorance is no longer a valid excuse. Like when we're talking about PewDiePie saying the N-word, I don't think he can claim ignorance on that. He's been in the world long enough to understand that he shouldn't do that, and he does understand that he shouldn't do that. But I'm just saying, like, if in that example you couldn't use ignorant, I don't think ignorance would be a valid excuse. Because at some point when and then some ignorance is willful. I mean, and that's willful ignorance is almost. I think I said like willful ignorance is almost indistinguishable from just idiocy. And there are definitely people that just have no intention of improving their perspective, and are just really stubborn about things. And they may not be intentionally hateful, but they're definitely not trying to do good. And there's a lot of people, those are a lot of people that often get called concern trolls, and maybe they are concern trolls, but there's a lot of people like that in the online. Those are often the people that are like the antis that people say are the good ones. Those are the ones that are willfully ignorant. Those are the ones that are not like not like specifically malicious, but they're definitely not trying to figure out how to make things better. They're set in their ways, and they have no intention of educating themselves. Thoughts on Jordan Peterson? The only thing I know about Jordan Peterson was when he threw a fuss about the whole Canadian bill or whatever, and he was like that was completely ridiculous, and he was wrong about that, and that caused me to write him off and not look him up further, because he just seemed like just a grumpy old man that didn't know what he's talking about. So that's all I know about him. I don't know anything else about him. Does the left at least have an advantage in terms of having academically engaged people? Well, yeah. I think that the left is definitely just more educated overall than the right. And the left is more fact-based than the right. But you need more than that, and that's why the left loses. Like, that's the unfortunate part. If truth and data was all you needed to win, then the left would never lose. The left will be undefeated. But unfortunately, that's not all you need. Electric Low Main, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it, as always. Electric Low Main is super fan, has been a long time supporter. Yeah, and I think the fact that the right are more tolerant of disagreements within their circle can be a double-edged sword, because then you get people like Milo, who you tacitly, and I think it can damage your credibility, but I don't know if that's important to them. But like a good example of that is, I don't know if Christina Hall Summers is right wing, but she's a person that is like, she seems like a very nice person. I've watched interviews with her. She seems like a nice person. She's educated, and so she, on surface level, I'm like, this is a person that I would actually like listen to if I was in a conversation, even if I ended up disagreeing. But then I see that, she's hanging out with like Steven Crowder and like Milo Yiannopoulos and people who I just know to be completely malicious, ridiculous people. And it just completely destroys your credibility. I don't think a lot of the left are as intolerant as the right makes them out to be. I don't know. Intolerant is not a good word. But I think the left is just bad. The left is just bad about alienating allies or potential allies. Did I see the Dick Masterson debate with Destiny? I did not see it. The guy has no BS tier moronic. Oh, no. Are you talking about the YouTuber No Bullshit? I don't know anything about that guy. No bullshit. I just know that YouTube kept recommending his videos to me, and I don't know why. I think it's because someone mentioned him. Like I think someone like mentioned him in a video. Like someone I do watch mentioned him, and then I just clicked on it. And then ever since then, YouTube just kept recommending his videos to me. It's like I don't want to watch this shit. Yeah, I did see that, but it was before the H Bomber guy thing. By the way, the H Bomber guy's Bill Nye videos have been amazing. H Bomber guy's the shit, dude. Like, I don't see how anyone can watch. Like, if you just watch H Bomber guy and other people like Sean and Jen and some other people, like I don't see how anyone can take NTSJW seriously after that. Like they just get thoroughly dismantled. And I guess Garrett before he deleted everything, but it's just like they're so thoroughly ridiculous. Like they're clowns. They're literally clowns. Anyway, I'm so happy that H Bomber guy surpassed 100,000 subscribers. That's dope. Because when I first found him, I think he had like 40,000. And I think he was kind of stuck around 50, 60,000 for a long time. And then just like recently, he just blew up. So that's dope. We need more of that. So speaking of, we're gonna find some YouTubers and check them out. I don't know. I feel like should I only do YouTubers that don't have that many subscribers, because the other ones you probably already have seen. An actual joke. You're in the stream, right? We can look at your channel if you want. Like the how I was talking about how it like filters comments and you have to approve them. This comment, so is Donald Trump a white supremacist? That was filtered out. I had to show it. It's like, I mean, it's not a inappropriate comment. I mean, maybe it is. But anyway, I think a lot of people, I mean, maybe rightfully so, get triggered by the word white supremacist, by the term white supremacist, or they think that it's an exaggeration. But I think a lot there's different levels of white supremacists. There are people who like proudly identify as white supremacists, and then there are people who don't use the term white supremacist but proudly identify as white nationalists, which are essentially the same thing as the white supremacists. But there's also a level of people who everything they say and do and support is to further the aims and goals of white supremacy. So they may not personally identify as a white supremacist, but everything they do adds towards white supremacy, and everything they support is towards white supremacy, and specifically so, not just like, it just happens to be the fact that the things they support, it's like the things they do are specifically and intentionally supporting and encouraging white supremacy, and those people are often referred to as white supremacists as well. And I think Donald Trump fits into that category. All right, so we're gonna watch an actual joke video. Let's see which one we're gonna watch. Are they long? I guess it doesn't matter. I don't want to watch like a 35-minute video though. Is my okay? It's not even on. This might echo though. I need to figure this out. Let's look at some thoughts on horseshoe theory, the use of violence, and centrism. Alright, let's move this out the way. I feel like echoes or something, or if it's too loud, let me know. Yeah, I have headphones. But I don't feel like doing all that.
It's been over 2 weeks since the white supremacist terrorist attack that happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. The Unite the Right rally brought together fascists of all stripes, from traditional KKK members to the current wave of ironic internet Nazis, which ended in abrupt violence. Who knew that violent ideologies begets violence? A man identified by the police as James Fields deliberately drove his car into a crowd of dozens of counter-protesters in an attempt to run them over, killing Heather Heyer and injuring a dozen others. In the wake of Charlottesville and the dozens more of white supremacist terrorist attacks that are bound to rise from it, there has been a certain hot take that is dominating the political discourse around the rise of far-right extremism, especially online. Both sides are to blame, actually. That anti-fascists are exactly the same as fascists who look to enact genocide and create a white ethno-state. The sentiment arises from a commonly used theory in mainstream politics known as horseshoe theory. Horseshoe theory stipulates that the far left and the far right are more similar to each other in essentials than either is to the political center. That the alt-left, which is a made-up term created by centrists on Twitter over 2 years ago to equate Bernie supporters and leftists to Trump supporters because they refuse to support Hillary Clinton, is the equivalent of the alt-right. Under horseshoe theory, there is always a political equal to certain positions. Everything must be binarized, and that there is always a compromise between these two positions. There is no balance between things like fascism and anti-fascism. Either you are a fascist, or you aren't. If you attempt to find the center between these two positions, you are automatically working to help the fascists. This is the case for a lot of political issues. Either people have access to reproductive health care, or they don't. Either we do something about climate change, or we don't. Either we fight for the liberation of the working class, or we don't. I don't care for Richard Dawkins, but I do agree with the fact that when two opposite points of view are expressed with equal intensity, the truth does not necessarily lie exactly halfway between them. It is possible for one side to be simply wrong. Unfortunately, when centrists created a political equivalence to the alt-right, they didn't think about how this framework would be used to legitimize the position that white people deserve their own ethno-state, by comparing it to the idea that all people should have access to healthcare, and that the police state should be dismantled. President Trump took advantage of the framework created by centrists in order to justify and excuse the actions of the alt-right by pointing to the alt-left.
What about the alt-left that came charging at the, as you say, the alt-right?
And actual fascists such as Baked Alaska and Richard Spencer followed suit. This is one of the many problems of horseshoe theory, which is practically interchangeable with the balance fallacy and appeal to moderation at this point. The use of horseshoe theory is common among radical centrists and diehard moderates who tend to oversimplify various political ideologies and most of all seek to discredit anyone who wants to change the status quo for better or for worse. Now, Tommy Lahren isn't a centrist by any stretch of the word, but comparing Black Lives Matter to the actual Ku Klux Klan was the predecessor to comparing literal fascists who want to commit genocide to people who want to stop them, otherwise known as anti-fascists. This is a gross false equivalence that is especially heinous, as it equates black people fighting against police brutality and institutional racism to white terrorists who terrorize black people in order to maintain white dominance, and compares people who want to commit genocide to those who want to stop them. The main thing that leads to comparisons like this is the use of violence. Centrists tend to have a very simplistic view on the use of violence, as they overemphasize civility and kindness within public discourse, no matter the topic at hand, whether it be, we should raise taxes by 10%, or we should gas the Jews. I would say that they view all forms of violence as bad and equally reprehensible, but that simply is not the case, as they defend the violence enacted by police, the military, politicians, capitalists, and other state actors. In their eyes, only the state is allowed to use violence, and everyone who's a non-state actor is demonized as a terrorist. The end goal of their tactics doesn't matter, only the means, which causes them to overlook the obvious differences between someone who wants to murder anyone who is not like them and the people who want to stop them from doing that. It also leads them to overlook several white supremacist rallies that were cancelled across the country out of fear of leftist violence, something that rational debate on Twitter could never achieve. As time goes on, I expect to see the both sides narrative practically non-stop in the media and within online discourse, along with people encouraging leftists to stop protesting and being the actual resistance. As usual, thanks for watching. Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below, since I enjoy hearing what you guys have to say. If you aren't already, become a subscriber, and become a patron if you can. Also, thank you to my patrons listed on the screen. You guys make this possible.
Yo, nice video. Yo, the production value was dope on that. Got the music. It was pretty good. So that was an actual joke. He's in the chat. Or an actual joke. Is that the channel? Hold on. Anyway, you could search for it. It's like literally the words an actual joke. Whoops. Okay. So yeah, good video. And if you'd like to, a thing that I'm pressing is I want people to support progressive YouTubers, not only just by watching videos, but also financially, so we can make these videos more sustainable. So if you like that video, you can subscribe to An Actual Joke, and if you want to support An Actual Joke, you can go to the Patreon, which is patreon.com/anactualjoke. Yeah, and sorry if I misgendered you, I wasn't sure. Thanks for the $2, some random geek. Were you gonna watch one of your own video? Probably not gonna watch one of my own videos. But it's an interesting thing. That's obviously a big topic on the social internet these days, is particularly when we're talking about fascists versus anti-fascists. No, I do think there's often a false equivalency, and I also think that horseshoe theory is bullshit. What are your feelings on single payer? Well, I mean, I think that I don't think that anything else is appropriate. Single payer is basically the only thing that we should have. Anything else is just inefficient and probably immoral. Assuming you're talking about healthcare, single payer healthcare. As for the actual type of single payer healthcare, that's something we can discuss, because there's different ways to do it for sure. But I think that healthcare definitely should be a right that everyone should have. So, and single payer is like basically how you do that. How does one choose a social issue to focus on when we want to fix everything and do everything? Well, you have a lot of time to do a lot of stuff, so just start on something and just keep going. It's not like you have to do it all today. You got a lot of time. You can do a lot of stuff. But never think that, well, it's two sides to it. Like, you can't do everything yourself, so don't put that much pressure on yourself. But also at the same time, don't think that you can't make the change on your own. Don't think it's too overwhelming. Why doesn't everyone believe it's not right? I honestly don't think most people disbelieve it's a right. Even people that say it's not a right, I don't think that they actually believe that, because that's kind of a sociopathic thing to say. I just think it just gets masked in all this like political nonsense, where people just kind of want to throw in all these other things that have nothing to do with the basic moral standard of giving everyone health care. But I think that I think an easy way to tell if someone thinks that healthcare is a right or not is to use the emergency room example. Is to say, if someone shows up, if someone is like has had an injury, and they show up to the hospital and they need immediate care, but they can't afford it, do you think that they should be taken care of? If you say yes, then you think healthcare is a right. You think that person has a right to be taken care of. And I feel like most people would say yes. Because if you don't think it's a right, then you would say, no, they can't pay for it. It's a privilege. Only people who can pay for it should have it. So just let them die. But I think most people wouldn't say that, because that's like borderline evil. It's weird how a few people in the SJW community have quite a lot of subs, but a lot of other people with similar ideas and are equally as entertaining, but only have a few. That's just how YouTube works. YouTube is an individual experience, and everyone sort of experiences it a little differently. It depends on so many things, that there's so many variables that everyone's experience is going to be different. Like, someone can get a lot of subscribers because someone shared them on the right day, or they got featured on a blog, or just their videos hit the algorithm the right way, or depending on what time you started your channel matters, and it's so many different things that go into it. Someone has to pay, though. Doctors and nurses don't work for free. Yeah, you're saying that as if universal healthcare has not been done before. Like, we figured that out already. Lots of other countries have figured out how to get doctors and nurses paid. Do you think welfare is a form of oppression? No, I don't. But the thing is, it's not about paying more in taxes and paying more for healthcare, because we pay more for healthcare in the United States than like everyone else, but we still A, don't have universal healthcare, and B, don't have the best healthcare. So it's like, that's not even a legitimate thing. Well, Snapple and Cat, some people even argue that universal education rights, or that universal education isn't a right. So, have you ever come across Jonathan Haidt's moral foundations theory? The short version is there's 6 moral taste buds, and the right is very good at talking to the taste buds of their constituents. Interesting. I'm not familiar with that. Do I listen to Death Grips? No, I'm familiar with Death Grips, but I haven't really listened to it. I think a lot of people, when it comes to a lot of political ideas, and I think this is one of the differences between liberals and conservatives, is like liberals are much more focused on the people aspect of it, and conservatives are much more focused on the numbers aspect to it. So we can watch another video now, if you want. Let's see. I don't want to watch like a long video, so I have to just check these out and see. And a lot of these, I think most of you have probably seen before. That was kind of like the video we started with was actually like really good. So it's gonna be sad to like if we play someone that doesn't have the same eye for production, because it's not always it's not about production. It's not always about production. I mean, production is cool, but sometimes it's just about the ideas, and sometimes it's about the personality. What YouTubers do I really dislike or hate? Well, I don't know. I don't care that much about anyone's YouTube channel. There are a few YouTubers that I think are really, really awful people, just based on the way that they've interacted outside of their YouTube channel, and sometimes on their YouTube channel. And that's people like Sargon and Blair White and Bearing and Undoomed, people like that. But as in terms of their content, I don't really give a shit about their videos that much. How do I super chat? Click the $ below the chat line. Do you think I should start a YouTube channel? Absolutely. Everyone should start a YouTube channel. I need to. The problem with a lot of these channels is like a lot of them are really long, and I don't want to just take up 30 minutes of my stream playing someone else's video, but like I want to play. Wait, hold on. Why is there such a large following for YouTube anti-SJWs? Because, well, I don't know. I mean, I have a speculation. For one, you know, they just, a lot of them are demagogues, and just demagogues, that's just what they do, is they get people to follow them. And a lot of them are just like, they're very appealing to younger people because they're very cynical, and they have this thing where it's like, you know, the world is crazy and you're the only one that's really smart, and that's a really appealing thing to tell people. And it's not just anti-SJWs, that's just a thing that has worked on human beings since the dawning of time. And also they're just like, many of them are just good at making videos. Like, if we're being honest, many of them just make good videos. I think a lot of progressives got into the YouTube game not really because they wanted to make videos, but because they wanted to express their opinion. But I think a lot of the anti-SJWs are people who actually are artistically creative and like video production and stuff like that. So a lot of their videos, not all of them, but more of them actually have like well-made videos. So I think that's part of it too. What do I think of Some Black Guy? I think his videos are really stupid. He is like, I think Some Black Guy, which is interesting because he's black, but he's like the prototypical anti-SJW on YouTube. Like, he has like he's like the most cliche anti-feminist talking points. It's just like the basic shit, completely unresearched, completely mean-spirited, and it's like, you know, it's like that semi like I want to be a comedian but not really type stuff. It's just like really basic anti-feminist stuff, like super not interesting to me. Ooh. Oh yeah, Ray Rocho. I think I'm gonna play one of his videos because I feel like he doesn't get talked about that much in this space, but his videos are really good. Dude, a whole bunch of comments just came in. I wasn't ready. Let's play Ray Rocho. Hold on. I want to play a Peter Coffin video, but I think they're too long usually. Ray Rocho might be too long too, though. I actually haven't seen videos in a while. Yeah, his videos are pretty long too. I want to support more like black progressives on YouTube. let's see this video. And I don't know, some of these, well, I definitely haven't seen this one. And I don't know, like, what it's gonna be like. Let's try this. This video is called "America Was Never Great" by Ray Rocha. It's a short video. I don't even know what it's about. It may not even be about anything, but we're gonna watch it. Ray Rocha, if you don't know, he's like this black dude from New York. He's got that accent, which is tight. This is like his second channel, I think. He's got like another channel called the Almonte Films. But I think that's more of like a sketch channel, and this is just like his commentary channel.
Trump is really tearing this country apart. Never has there ever been a nation so divided until Trump started running for president. I was proudly born and raised in the most liberal state of America, New York City, and I can definitely say Trump is not my president. Ever since Trump won the election, all of these hate crimes are coming about. Sexism, racism has never been as fucked up. They want to be bitching about Trump this, Trump that. Nigga, racism was always around. Y'all privileged motherfuckers want to be talking about Islamophobia 1, racism, sexism 1. As long as we in a profit-based system, racism will always win every fucking day. Y'all blame Nixon, y'all blame George Bush, y'all blamed Obama, and now Trump. If Hillary would have won, y'all would have been doing the same shit. Every 4 years, we look at some fucking icon to blame our problems on. You fucking reformists is always looking for the next man to fucking feed you crumbs and shit. If you a worker, you nothing but a scumbag. You nothing but a fucking ghetto hooligan. You a hoodlum, kid. You a hillbilly. You a hick. You a wetback. You just a fucking commodity for those that are above to use you as a fucking slave. Y'all niggas is talking all this shit thinking that this shit was made for us, my nigga? Y'all heart was out here fucking beating for Bernie Sanders' fake socialist ass. Niggas is out here having wet dreams about Hillary Clinton fixing racism and shit. What's gonna happen to all them niggas that got locked up for smoking weed now that weed is legalized? You think she just gonna let them niggas go now that they realize, oh, well, we fucked up. Sorry for locking you up for 2 decades for having a fucking dime. No, you bum ass nigga. Don't be talking all that shit if you ain't gonna start no revolution. Prove me wrong, nigga. We sitting here begging and praying, talking about our lives matter and shit. How long will we have to be at their mercy before we realize that it is our fucking responsibility to fight for our humanity, to fight for our rights, to take this shit for ourselves? We built this fucking country. Every day we building the economy of this country to be used as a fucking commodity by corporate interests. You sitting there talking about Trump like if he's different from Obama, the nigga that's bombing innocent people in Syria, the nigga that's bombing the Middle East. Obama was one of the worst things to happen because then we had that false hope that we was actually getting somewhere when we was the same old motherfucking imperialist country. That's my cue. Eastside, Harlem reppin', workers unite.
Sometimes I don't even wanna wake up. 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 I don't even wanna wake up.
So if Trump destroys America as we know it, fuck it. Bring it on, carrot boy.
Yeah. I just love the way he talks. So there you go. That's Ray Rocha. That one was a little bit had the anti-capitalist sentiment into it as well. If you want to support Ray Rocha, his Patreon is patreon.com/Jeffrey Almonte. I actually support him on Patreon. And he has, like I said, he has another channel called the Almonte Films, ALMONTE. So you can check that out too if you'd like. He had that dope edit, punching himself in the face. It's not easy to do. Well, I guess it's easy to do, but it's actually an impressive effect to make look correct. But I do agree with one thing. This is something I've been thinking about lately. There's a quote from Van Jones where he says it's not fair that the oppressed has to lead the oppressors to their freedom, but it's the only way that it has ever worked throughout history. That's just what has to be done. Have you become more radically left-wing? I don't think so. No. I'm about as liberal as I've been most of my adult life. Maybe not my whole adult life. What is the Bernie Sanders comment? Can you comment on the stereotypes of leftists? The right spreads about us all having victim mentalities. Well, I mean, the thing about it is the people on the right don't believe in systematic injustice. The fact of it is, you can use any term that you want, but the fact of it is that certain people in the world, in every country, certain groups of people are disadvantaged, marginalized, oppressed, whatever word you want to use, because they are part of that group. And I guess you could say that makes them a victim. So if the right is saying, the left says the left is always talking about how everyone is a victim, well, it's true, because they are. They've been disadvantaged because they're part of certain groups. And that's just factually true. It's provably true, and it's like trivially provable. So, that sort of accusation is just weird. We're talking about victim mentality, but it's like we're just demonstrating the facts of the world. It's not a mentality. It's just saying the facts. But I think it has this connotation that's obviously disingenuous. Like, anyone who goes out into the world knows that people are not just cowering, sitting at home, saying, "Oh, I'm a victim. I'm so scared of everybody, and I just want everybody to pity me." Like, no one does that in the real world. People go out and they do their jobs and they take care of their families just like everyone else. So it's kind of a stupid accusation, I think. I think there are a lot of people, especially in the online progressive or liberal leftist movement, who are pretty strongly anti-capitalist, which I guess makes sense, because capitalism is kind of at the root of a lot of problems, especially like social injustice problems. But I personally am not an anti-capitalist, but I do think that capitalism needs to be majorly reformed. Isn't that a little racist? Obama's daughters certainly aren't as oppressed as impoverished whites in the South. Well, you had to specifically find a specific example to make that point, and you're ignoring the context. You can be privileged in one way and disadvantaged in another way. Obama's daughters aren't as oppressed economically as impoverished whites in the South, but if Obama's daughters, if someone didn't recognize them and they walked down the street, statistically they would be less trusted than those impoverished whites if they walked down the same street. So it depends on the context. And if we're talking about a racial context, then yes, they are more oppressed. If we're talking about an economic context or a social status context, then no, they're not more oppressed. But you can be oppressed in one way and not oppressed in another way. Just like as a black man, I have the privilege of being a man while having the disadvantages of being black. You can both can exist at the same time in different ways, and it's important to acknowledge all of it, and it's not a competition. I don't know how to reform capitalism in the ways that need to be done in a timely manner. I mean, there's a lot of sweeping changes we can make. I don't know that they will happen. But, you know, I think it's still worth talking about it and still worth fighting for it. I don't think it's hard to say that it'll happen, especially since conservatives are running the country right now. It's not strange, and this is something people only say it's strange in this context. The word privilege has a very, very simple definition. You can look it up. Privilege is when you have access to things or when you experience things that other people don't. That's all. That's what the word means, and it makes no one scoffs at it in any other context. But you know, in this context, people's like, oh, that's not the right word. It's like, it is the right word. It's literally what that means. You have access to things that other people don't. So if someone trusts you automatically and someone mistrusts someone else automatically, you have the privilege of being trusted. You didn't do anything. It's not a bonus point. I mean, they should, you know, treat everyone with the same amount of respect, but since you have something that someone else does, it's privilege. It's just literally the word for what that is. But you know, certain groups of people have managed to taint a pretty basic word and make it sound like it's the wrong word, and this is what they do. This is actually a pretty standard strategy of the anti-progressives, anti-feminists, anti-SJW, whatever you want to call them. They focus on words. They don't focus on ideas. They focus on words. They do this all the time. I notice this. They always want to say, oh, you mean this word. You're using this word. This word is, oh, so you basically mean this. Since you use this word, you basically mean this. Or you use this word wrong, so that means your argument is wrong. Like, they do this all the time, and it's really annoying. And this is what they've done with privilege. They're basically saying, oh, your entire argument is wrong because you're using the wrong word. Or they're saying, or what they do is they derail the conversation. They ignore the context of everything you're saying because they don't like the word you use. And it's like, it's particularly annoying in this situation because it's actually the correct word. Any new YouTubers you think your fans should check out? Also, any political YouTubers you don't agree with or think we should watch? Well, we just watched a couple of people. I don't know if they're new. I think An Actual Joke might be kind of new, but We just checked a couple people out. In terms of people I disagree with, I mean, it just depends on what you mean, because I don't fully agree with anybody. I don't think there's anyone I 100% agree with. So every YouTuber is a YouTuber I don't agree with sometimes. What kind of books do you read and what do you recommend? I actually don't read as much as I used to, as much as I should. I've been trying to read more. These days I read mostly I've been reading like self-help books and like financial type books. I'm reading a book called Boredom to Brilliance, and I'm actually going to do a video about that soon actually. But it's basically about how just because we're on our smartphones all the time, that we're never bored anymore, but being bored is sort of important because that's where we develop our best ideas and things like that. Do I think Sargon of Akkad is a racist? I don't know if he is a racist. He said some racist stuff though. I'm not gonna speak on his deepest. He has never like outright said like, I think that white people are better than everyone else. But he's definitely said a whole lot of racially insensitive things. What do you think of H Bomber Guy? I think H Bomber Guy is awesome. Read the new Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. Okay. Did people watch the Sargon Contra stream? I watched like 5 minutes of it. I can't really deal with Sargon. He's a very frustrating person to listen to. I think we have accent privilege in, I don't know if it's accent privilege, but we definitely have stereotypes with accents in America. Like I live in the South, where a lot of people have southern accents, and southern accents generally tend to sound less intelligent to people. But the same thing for like you know, like Boston accents or New York, and to be fair, a lot of accents develop in poorer neighborhoods and stuff like that. Contra didn't put her drink down the whole time. It was so bad. That's funny. Contra is basically, I think Contra is just sort of attacking these people head on. I think her strategy is she's trying to make herself impossible to troll, because she's just always there on the front line. She's not like hiding, so it's like it's no fun to troll her because she fights back. I feel like that's what she's trying to do, at least. I didn't see the dig at Garrett. ContraPoints is amazing. I think everyone should subscribe to ContraPoints. I would play a ContraPoints video, but I feel like most of you have probably watched ContraPoints before. And Contra's like getting better and better. That's the thing. Like, her videos are they're just becoming more and more ambitious. She's just really good at what she does. Tim, yeah, we could do a Tim. His videos are usually pretty long, aren't they? I was actually thinking about that. I was like scrolling through the list. See if I can find a not so long one. I feel like Tim is kind of well known in the community, which is kind of weird because he doesn't have that many subscribers, but it seems like everybody knows who he is. But let's see if I can find something that's not too long. He does a lot of streams too. A lot of these people, or not a lot of them, but several people do a lot of streams. So if you're into streams, you know, you can subscribe to people like The Motivator Opinion and Destiny and like, I guess Michael Rowlands does streams. And there's some other ones I have to figure it out, but don't be rude to people in the chat, dude. Tim also like plays music and stuff. And a lot of these, I think, a lot of Tim's videos, you have to know the context to really get it. They're all so long. I'm from the old school YouTube where every video was like 4 minutes long. I'm just not used to these long videos. Like my last 2 videos were pretty long, but that's only because I added like an extra section to the end of them. Alright, let's watch this one. It's not that long. This one is called Response to People About a Tweet. I haven't watched this one. Let's see what it says.
Hello, I thought I'd take the time to just respond quickly to something that happened on Twitter today. So the ACLU put out a tweet that said, this is the future that ACLU wants, and it was a picture of a white child with blonde hair holding an American flag, and not immediately noticeable on her shirt it says free speech. When I saw this image, I thought it was in very poor taste because in the context of Charlottesville and white supremacists marching,
you will not replace us! People coming down the stairs. You will not replace us! You will not replace us! Hail victory!
And the fact that the ACLU has been defending Nazis and neo-Nazis in court recently, the image to me looked like it was an exclusionary message basically saying that we're fighting for white people. And that's in the context of Charlottesville and the white supremacy situation which has been occurring. Due to this, I thought that the image had a propaganda vibe to it, so I tweeted out, yeah, so the ACLU wants white Aryan children holding America flags. And my Twitter just exploded. People went completely fucking berserk over this, and it just made me increasingly annoyed and pissed off. Triggered. There was a ridiculous number of people in my mentions being like, I thought you were the reasonable one, Tim. Oh, it turns out you're just a bad SJW as well. Like, you're the real racist. like trust you to see in this image race, you're just like the alt-right. And it just went on and fucking on, just an endless sea. And I would say that I tripled and quadrupled and quintupled down on the tweet, and I would do so again. Even allies were saying to me, like, Tom Bloke was like, you're still wrong, even though I asked him to explain and he didn't. Maybe he has by now, I haven't checked. And another social justice friend of mine was like, well, you overreacted, but that's okay. No, I do not think I overreacted. I thought the initial tweet that I made was absolutely perfectly fucking fine. I was talking about the function of the image in the wider context of the social and cultural events that are occurring around it, which is that the ACLU has been defending Nazis. The images, to me, was not completely separated from just the things that are occurring in society. And to me, that's not a controversial thing to say. Now, when my friend said I overreacted, I would say that is because saying an Aryan child holding an American flag is hyperbolic, but yeah, absolutely. I am a very snarky person, and I take things over the top. If I'd said it in a different way, maybe I would have used some feminist nomenclature. This is a problematic image. It's kind of putting out the message that, you know, we stand for, like, the white people. It's not saying, like, we stand for the free speech of everybody in the social context of defending Nazis, etc. The amazing thing to me was just how many of the arguments coming from people on Twitter were not substantive and were not actually refuting me. They were just saying, like, you're unreasonable, you're an SJW. My good friend, the outspoken realist, Tor, he was like, Tim, you're gonna lose credibility if you say things like this that are insane. Like, just to pull Stefan Molyneux, that's not a fucking argument. And the ACLU actually agreed with me because they put out a tweet later where they were like, people have been pointing out how white supremacy is on the rise, and based on that, this image is problematic, as I should have said to not offend everybody. And they said that's a good point. And I think when you look at the history of, like, propaganda and posters that convey a certain idea around race in a racialized climate, it's not unreasonable to say that it's got a propagandist vibe to it. And I think the ACLU recognized that. Obviously, when I said an Aryan child, I was referring to, like, old Nazi propaganda. And that tweet would not make sense if it was just, like, some completely disconnected image that just had nothing to do with anything. But it is part of a larger cultural conversation, and that's why the ACLU understood that that could be interpreted in a controversial way, and acknowledged that. I said, well, for a long time the ACLU has been like this evil, bad, liberal organization which is just for the libs, and it's been demonized, and the ACLU became like a dirty word where you even mention the ACLU, people just get fucking angry, like, oh, those fucking sellout ACLU libs. And I said, but now that they're defending Nazis, all of a sudden people are outraged when you criticize the ACLU. And that is absolutely 100% true. All of a sudden, like, oh, you leave the ACLU alone. The ACLU is about free speech. Like, the entire dialogue has completely changed because they've been defending Nazis. And then WikiLeaks shows up and he's all like, whoa, they've been defending Nazis the whole time, Tim. But that's not my point. My point was the way that people think about the ACLU changes completely based on who they're defending. And you might point out, but Tim, yeah, I mean, that's why you reacted to it differently too, because they're defending Nazis. And on that, I would say, yeah, absolutely, because I guess I have somewhat of a bias against Nazis. And I think that when they're defending Nazis and they show that kind of imagery, it is problematic. Which is why I would totally stand by what I said. Would I say it in a less hyperbolic way just to avoid offending people? No, not because I'm worried about that. Would I do it just to avoid the headache of just a fucking shitstorm of bullshit that is just based around shame? Like, oh, I expected you to be more reasonable. You're supposed to be the good SJW. No, I still would have made the tweet. Like, why would I retract it? It doesn't matter how many people insult me. It's not going to have any impact on my point of view. What could have an impact on my point of view would be, like, reasonable arguments about why they think I'm wrong, that image has a strong propaganda vibe to it, because I still think it does. And people saying, like, oh, you're just like the alt-right, or you see race because you're SJW, and then someone being like, you're a Marxist and stuff. I mean, that's fine, but what has it got to do with the actual substance of the conversation? Or people just saying you're wrong, or it was a nuclear take, or it's all right to admit when you're at fault, when very few of these people have been able to explain in any way how I was actually at fault, besides just taking that image at face value and just being like, it's just an innocent child, Tim. It can't possibly have any other implications, and if you think it does, you're the real racist or whatever. That is not a compelling case for why images cannot have implications. And as I said, the ACLU agreed with me. So you're against me and the people who actually made the tweet, but I can understand if you think that my tweet was too hyperbolic, because yeah, it was, you know. Anyways, that's my take on that. Thank you.
Word. Yeah, I think I saw that tweet, but that's an interesting thing too, because I get that sort of thing a lot where it's like, oh, I thought that you were one of the reasonable ones. I get that shit all the time. Anytime you say something, anytime you take a hard stance on anything, like, oh, I thought that you were one of the reasonable progressives. It's like, boy. But that's, you know, that's just another way of concern trolling, where it's like, you know, I agree with your cause if I feel like you're being reasonable about it, you know, stuff like that. But that's also like a lot of people have mentioned in the chat. That's also one of the problems with Twitter. It's why I think that I'm gonna stop using Twitter to have like deep combos or, you know, long conversations, because it's just really hard to make any kind of nuanced point on Twitter. It's really easy for people to misrepresent you on Twitter and to misunderstand you. I think that a lot of it is people are intentionally avoiding being charitable to what you're saying. But the problem is, it's just too easy to do that on Twitter. Yeah, I actually added Pop Culture Detective to my list. I hadn't watched any of it before, but I did watch that Big Bang Theory video. And I think a lot of people have criticized the ACLU, but I really think that the ACLU has been pretty consistent about what they support and what they're going to do. And I don't think it should surprise anyone that the ACLU will defend Nazis' right to free speech and free expression, because I think that's consistent to what they've always done, like throughout the literal existence of the organization. And I don't agree with any kind of legal censorship of anybody's speech or expression. I 100% don't agree with that, regardless of who it is or what they're saying. What I am okay with is individual people and individual organizations deciding not to platform people or deciding to socially ostracize people. I'm 100% okay with that. I agree. I think that, well, honestly, I don't know what. I think that the ACL tweet was definitely taken out of context. Well, not taken out of context, but just like misrepresented. And I think it's a matter of being charitable to what people are trying to say. But I don't think the point is what they were trying to say. I think the point is what it looks like given the circumstances. Let's move this over here. Like when it comes to individual organizations, I fully support. Like I support Discord banning Nazis. I support Reddit removing hateful groups. I support like GoDaddy, removing Nazi websites from their hosting. Like I support all of that. I support society telling hateful people that you're not welcome. What I don't support is the government making it illegal to say certain things or to express yourself in certain ways. And I do think that sometimes organizations can take it too far. Like personally, I didn't agree with Milo Yiannopoulos being banned from Twitter. I think Milo Yiannopoulos is one of the most disgusting individuals I've ever had the displeasure of becoming acquainted with, but I didn't agree with him being banned from Twitter. Now, honestly, Twitter, obviously they can ban whoever they want for whatever reason they want, but given what Twitter has said about their commitment to speech, I don't think that it was consistent. But and honestly, I think, yeah, and I should have brought that up. The ACLU has you know, they're not perfect, and they admit when, you know, they should have thought more about something or they made mistakes, and they said that now they're no longer going to protect armed groups because that's a whole different context where when you come prepared to, like, basically, you know, ostensibly prepared to shoot people over your ideas, that's no longer free speech, free expression anymore. And so I that's something I never even thought about. So I think I agree with that. Do you think free speech is actually under attack? No. I don't at all. I mean, it isn't. There's no laws that are being proposed to ban speech in America, at least. But the thing is, the free speech argument is like a red herring. It's because they only care about free speech for conservatives or anti-feminists. They never care about free speech for leftists or progressives. You never hear them talk about that. Like just recently, I don't even know if this guy's a leftist, but recently this guy who's he's a Catholic priest. I tweeted about it. You may have saw it, but he recently got disinvited from speaking at this church or something, or this conference, because he wrote a book about the church being more open to LGBT people, and he got disinvited because of the backlash. And I have yet to see a skeptic reactionary video defending this guy, because you know, pro LGBT is not their. It's not their jam. It's not their brand. So they're not going to do it. Counterpoints did a two-parter on free speech, indeed, and it was very good. So I think it's probably good for me to have a standard length for these streams, and I think I'm going to go with 2 hours. So that means there's going to be about 30 minutes left in the stream. Back in the past when I did streams, I would just kind of just do it for as long as possible. I would basically just keep streaming until the chat died down, and sometimes the stream would last like 5 hours, which is cool, and maybe I'll do that in the future. But I think standard, the stream will be about 2 hours. So that generally it will be 3 p.m. my time, which is central, to 5 p.m. And I started at 3:30 this time. So 30 minutes from now, we're going to go ahead and end the stream. The thing about hateful speech, in quotes, is that it's kind of subjective what is hateful speech. In the 60s, probably most people thought that Martin Luther King was saying hateful speech. So you can't really have a standard definition of hateful speech. That's why you can't make it illegal. You can't make hate speech illegal, because what is hate speech is strongly dependent on the times and who's in charge. And it's funny, like I talk about Martin Luther King, a lot of the same shit that people say about Black Lives Matter and stuff like that is the same shit people said about Martin Luther King. In general, you know, today's people agree that Martin Luther King was right. But the people at the time, and probably more than didn't, thought that he was a hate monger and was divisive and, you know, just another the KKK in another form, you know, stuff like that. But if it gets into a level of actual harm or abuse, that's where the law needs to step in. And that's just how it, I think that's just how it has to work. But regardless of what's legal or not legal, society determines what's socially acceptable. The law doesn't. So if society determines that a certain type of idea is socially unacceptable, then it will just socially ostracize it, and I don't have a problem with that. And that's why I don't live, or that's why I don't desire to live in Saudi Arabia, because what their society deems acceptable and unacceptable conflicts with my personal sense of morality and stuff like that. And honestly, I'm like halfway don't like half the shit that people do in America. Oh yeah, MLK's politics definitely. I think someone like made that like another like faux fallacy, the appeal to Martin Luther King Jr. Like, what would Martin Luther King Jr. do that? Martin Luther King would be civil. It's like, would he? Are you sure about that? I mean, he was definitely known for being nonviolent, but I don't know that he was civil. He wasn't like this angel that was just marching and saying, just everybody just be happy and, just get along. Martin Luther King was a gangster, dude. He was like, a lot of people don't realize, like, he was like super strategic about everything. I generally try to read aloud the comments if the context isn't obvious, but I don't know. I'll try to do it, I guess. And I think that's, can you not see, it might be kind of small. That's why I put it on the screen. Is it not readable on the screen? can make it bigger in the future if it's too small. Who's your favorite socialist YouTuber? I have no idea. I don't specifically follow any socialist YouTubers, I don't think, or at least not YouTubers that talk about socialism all the time. Yeah, a lot of the people that I linked in my video are people that I don't watch like regularly, and a lot of them are just some of them I have never seen before. They were just suggested by a lot of people. Like Bad Mouse, I think I've seen like one Bad Mouse video, but a lot of people have recommended Bad Mouse Productions to me. We had a strong middle class who made stride in equality for all. So what do you think about raising tax on the wealthy, and how far would you go? I don't necessarily know if we need to raise the tax on wealthy people. Well, I mean, I guess we do. I'm more concerned with limiting, with just making corporations pay people more. Like I'm more worried about making businesses pay workers living wages than like taxing individuals. But I think that there are certain things, like I think capital gains should be taxed, and I think I think that rich people, they already pay like a lot of money in taxes already. But the problem is that corporations, especially large corporations, like they pay like no taxes, and they don't pay their workers any money. Like there could be a tax on like mega wealthy people, like billionaires or something, or like multi-millionaires, and but I don't know how much actual revenue that would amount to. Honestly, I'm not well versed on any of this stuff. I just kind of have an idea of what I believe, but I can definitely I could definitely stand to read more about economics and political ideologies and stuff like that. Like the more involved I get with this community, the less I realize I know about this stuff. Because there's just a lot of really smart people in the community, and really knowledgeable people. Like pro-unionization, that's something that I honestly need to do more research about, because I'm not sure. It seems like a good idea just like base level, but then there's a lot of different contexts. I wish Dan Brown would come back to YouTube. His videos were awesome. Yeah, Dan Brown was awesome. Honestly, I feel like he would do well now, better now than he did before. But I don't know, as far as I can tell, he's doing all right. Like, I'm friends with him on Facebook. It seems like he's all right, but I don't know. Dan Brown sort of represents old school YouTube. He was kind of a big deal way back in the day, like maybe 2010 or something. He was like one of the main YouTube stars at the time. He was all over the place. But then he just sort of I think he he did this experiment on his channel called Dan 3.0, in which the idea was that he let his viewers control his life and basically tell him what he was going to do at all times. But it was just not a well organized, a well thought out plan, and it just kind of massively failed, and it ended up losing him a lot of subscribers, I think. Well, I mean, it definitely did lose him a lot of subscribers. And he kind of disappeared for a while, but then he reemerged, and he made a lot of great, thoughtful videos where he had discussions with his audience on a variety of topics, often politics and social justice. And he definitely could be considered a progressive. And I think he tried to make a go of YouTube as his full-time job, and it just kind of didn't work out fast enough. So then he sort of backed off. But I think he still makes a video once a year or something. But that was before the shitlords took over YouTube, and I think that was actually part of why he why it was hard for him to make a return, because that was sort of when the shitlords came to YouTube and started taking over, and people especially young people were less interested in the progressive stuff. I think a lot of people said Trump would lose the election. I don't think the shitlords took over America, but they did. I would say they hacked America, but I don't think they took over. I think they're greatly outnumbered. But like I said, they're better. They're better at strategy than the rest of us are. I did do a collaboration with Dan Brown. It was actually pretty cool. We did some videos about. Well, it wasn't a direct collaboration, but we sort of referred to each other's videos and got our audience to get to come together in one big discussion, and we talked about education, not just in America, but just mainly in America. Where did I stand when Gamergate happened? Gamergate, the thing about it, I actually made a video kind of about this. It's called what's it called? It's called Why I Didn't Jump on the Anti-Feminist Bandwagon. But anyway, before Gamergate happened, I've always been a liberal, progressive person. But before Gamergate, I think it's because I spent so much time on Tumblr, but I was starting to get really annoyed with online feminists and online progressives, I guess. And I felt like no one was talking about it, because I kind of felt like at that point in time, feminism ran the world and ran the internet. Everybody was a feminist, all of the big YouTubers were feminists. You know, there, and it just seemed like no one was providing any kind of criticism of feminism. So when Gamergate happened, Gamergate kind of made it okay to criticize feminism. It was like this explosion of anti-feminism, and there's a lot of bullshit involved with Gamergate at the beginning. Like I think it was from the beginning it was based on sexism, but it was after that there were a lot of people that were criticizing feminists, and I was like, at first I was like, that's cool. We can criticize feminism now. It's not like this sacred thing that we can't criticize anymore. But then as it went on, I started realizing, oh, these people are shitlords. They don't really give a shit about making the world better. They are just angry white men who just are basically misogynists and just they ignore data and they make mean videos and they harass people. Oh, I don't want to be involved in this. My bad. I'm gonna back out now. What is your opinion on progressives, liberals' inability to foster deep relationships within their community, i.e. knowing and relying on one's neighbors, voting in smaller elections? It's just because progressives are so driven by ideas and emotions that, not even emotions, but just they're driven by their ideas and they're driven by their principles and their convictions, but they're not driven by practical strategy. Like they just completely miss that part. Like they think that being right is enough. They think that that's all they need. And I think that's why a lot of people get frustrated, because it's like, I know I'm right. Why am I not winning? You know, basically that's kind of a crude way to put it, but I think that's why a lot of people get frustrated. And I get frustrated sometimes. When it comes to stuff like that, because it's like, you know, I know that Black Lives Matter, the stuff that they're talking about is true. Like, it's literally provably true. Yet, so many people still hate them and still talk shit about them. And it's like, what am I supposed to do? But simply being right is not enough. You gotta have strategy, and part of that strategy is voting and forming communities and not alienating allies. But I think that the left is historically pretty bad at that, and it's not even just the online left, but just even literal politicians. Like, they're just really bad about that. Yeah, I think the new movement of intellectual progressivism on YouTube is good for everybody, because I think it's helping leftists who may have been in that sort of Tumblr mindset, who are like basically have the right ideas but just didn't know how to express it in a productive way, and I think that it's helping those kinds of people as well. Would I classify myself as a secular humanist? I don't specifically identify as that, but I guess it fits. I'm not sure. I have to see what all that means actually, but I think it fits. Do you think that Trump will win in 2020? I don't think, but I didn't think he would win this one, so I don't know. I honestly don't know. Hillary Clinton, I haven't read her book, but all the interviews she's been given now, like promoting her book, have been really, really frustrating for me. Like, she's talking a whole bunch of bullshit right now. And I honestly try, like, I don't want to be like a hateful person. I don't want to be one of those persons that's just like, fuck that person and fuck whatever they say. Everything they do and say is ridiculous, and I completely write them off. But some people make it hard not to do that. It's interesting, you know, we talk about secular humanism and, you know, the interaction between atheism and social justice. Like, that's all tied into it too. Like, that could arguably be a precursor to Gamergate. Was sort of like this split, not the split, but like when atheists started becoming more, when a certain section of atheists started becoming more more involved with intersectional feminism and social justice and stuff like that. Because like almost everybody that I know in the social justice community is an atheist. The social justice community on YouTube is an atheist or an agnostic or something like that. And many of us were inspired early on by people like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens. I still love Christopher Hitchens. You know, as I grow up, I realized that there's a lot of things that I disagree with him about, but I still think that he's a brilliant dude that said a lot of awesome shit. That's the thing about the right. They know when to support people. You say people who bash the smug liberal elites love Bill Maher when he bashes Islam. Like they are happy to add someone as a temporary ally if it benefits them, even if it's someone like Bill Maher who disagrees with them on basically everything. Did I bump heads with other YouTube atheists back in the day? Not really. I didn't interact with that many other YouTubers back in the day. It's honestly like this is actually kind of new to me. I'm like newish to this whole movement, I guess. Like there's people have been making videos and stuff for a while before I even knew who any of these people were, you know? Like I've been making videos, but it was sort of just me making my own stuff, you know, without even knowing about anyone else. Like there were some people in the community that I knew about, like Thunderfoot is a person I used to watch. I used to watch The Amazing Atheist back in the day. And then there was people like Rebecca Watson back in the day, who I guess still makes videos. But I didn't really interact specifically with any of them. My sort of introduction into this I don't know, like progressive YouTube community was when someone like actually recommended H Bomber Guy and ContraPoints to me. It was like a year and a half ago, and they were like, you should check out these two people. Like you've been, because I was starting to see how some of the YouTubers that I like Thunderfoot and Amazing Atheist, started going off the deep end, and so I was like started talking about it on Twitter and stuff, and people messaged me like, hey, you should check out these people. Like they're also like secular people, but they're pro social justice. Like they're not shitlords. And I use the term shitlord pretty like too loosely, to be honest, but it's just the easy word to say. So I started watching their videos, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Why didn't anyone tell me about these people? And then so after that, I started reaching out to different people and be like, hey, I like your videos. Let's chat. And then I think eventually Christy Winters invited me to have a conversation with her on her channel, and I think that's where a lot of people found me, or just re-found me, I guess. And it's like, oh, who's this guy? And unfortunately, that's where a lot of antis found me as well. And then I did that questions for anti-SJWs video, which is also where a lot of people on both sides found me. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw Contra's old videos. If I did, I don't remember them. What is a shitlord? It's just, a shitlord is a term that I use to describe people who make disingenuous, mean-spirited videos, usually attacking feminism and social justice advocates. That's just what I mean when I say it. That's, you know, I think in general it just means anyone who's on the internet being a dick and being like being disagreeable and disingenuous and mean-spirited and shit like that. Fantano, who is that? Is that the dude from I don't know. Who's Fantano? Yeah, the dude from the needle drop. I don't know. I don't know anything about him. I've seen some of his music reviews and I thought that they were cool, but then I saw him on the questions for feminists or whatever, and I was like, okay, this guy sucks. What? Honestly, I think those questions for whoever videos were probably ill-advised on both sides, because it just put a whole lot of different people with a lot of different ideas together, and it made it seem like everything in the video is something that everyone in that video agrees with, and I don't think that was true on either side. Because, you know, there's even on the anti-feminist one, like, all those people are so different, and some of them have been like ostracized from the community. Like, fucking atheism is unstoppable was in that video, and like, I don't think anyone fucking likes him anymore. And like, Cult of Dusty was in that video, and he's pretty much like an anti-feminist now, which is kind of interesting. And then there's people like Armored Skeptic was in the video, who I think is, I don't know, I think Armored Skeptic is opportunistic with stuff like that. Like, I feel like he would probably do it again. I don't know, to be in all honesty, I never stopped being a fan of Cult of Dusty. I think a lot of people are just really uncomfortable when people say stuff that they disagree with, and they feel like that they're not allowed to like people that say stuff that they disagree with. And I do think that Dusty was on this like kind of crazy anti-SJW kick for a little while, but I kind of was always a fan of Dusty. I think that he just says what he believes, and I think that he's the type of person who he's not the type of person that would just outright deny a fact, which is what a lot of other people do. Um, apparently Kraut is considered to be like a true leftist or something. But I don't know, that dude is kind of unhinged, and I feel like I don't know. Some of these people I don't take the time to really research, because they do something that I'm pretty sure is like, okay, that's all I need to know about this person. And Kraut is one of those people. He's made some pretty explicitly racist comments about Muslims, and it's like, okay, that's all I need to know about you. I will not waste time trying to learn more about you. I'm not sure about what Dusty's racist comments you're talking about. Have you ever changed your mind about something you made a video about in the past? Would you ever make a new video discussing it? The only times that I've changed my mind about a video, I think there's only been 2 instances where I made a video and then I just completely, and I disagree with what I say in the video completely. Not completely, but like, there's stuff in the video that I would just say I just completely don't believe anymore. And in both situations, I took the video down. But I mean, I've talked about it for sure. I didn't reference the old video. Probably the most interesting one is when I made a video about, among other things, Anita Sarkeesian. And I basically used to be one of the people that was like pretty strongly anti-Anita Sarkeesian. But when you sort of step back and sort of, I was never like, as, like, a lot of people make it seem like Anita Sarkeesian is like some kind of evil witch that's literally ruining the world. And I don't think I was ever that bad. But I did used to be strongly suspicious of her intentions. But I just realized it's like, oh, she just says stuff that I disagree with. That doesn't mean that she's evil. That means we just disagree. And the more you think about it, the more silly you realize it is to think that there's this woman who just literally makes YouTube videos about video games is like literally somehow ruining the world. So that's probably the most interesting thing that I made a video about that I no longer agree with. But I've taken down the video now. The other video was a video about introversion versus extroversion. And then that's a really old video, maybe like 2009 or something. But in that video, I just literally didn't really understand what the word introvert and the word extrovert meant. So I just made a video talking about it without really knowing what it meant. And then later I just took it down because I was like, wait, this is fucking stupid. How do I feel about PewDiePie slipping up and nearly saying the N-word again? I think he did say it. He didn't nearly say it. Or did he say it again after? Yeah, I hope that's not what happened. What kind of topics do you have planned coming up in your next video? Well, actually, I have a video coming up about, I've mentioned this earlier, but it's about boredom and how boredom is good. What's your MBTI? Usually I get ENFP. I think a lot of there's a lot of introvert propaganda on the internet. I'll put it that way. A lot of it is really obnoxious, but I think it's just it's just the same shit. It's just internet sensationalism. You see it on Facebook all the time, all these crazy articles. But there's this idea that introverts are just like this special breed of people that are just so special and they should be treated specially, and no one understands them. And it's like, okay, dude, shut the fuck up. You're just a person just like everybody else. And there's this idea like extroverts are loud and they all love small talk, and they don't understand, you know, how to interact with introverts. It's like, calm down, dude. Are you planning on bringing back the angry stack of beverage napkins? Probably, if I can think of an idea. I don't know though, because I'm kind of more and more, I'm just really over the whole anti-SJW thing. And it's just not that interesting to me anymore. So I'm not that inspired to parody it, because I don't think it's that interesting. But I might do it just for fun. I made a YouTube channel for it just in case I wanted to do something. So, and especially if people like it, then I'll do it. Alright guys, I'm going to get ready to go here in like 5 minutes, so if you have any last questions or comments or anything like that, the live stream will be weekly, probably on Sunday. You can just count for Sunday, 3 p.m. Central Time. If there's a change, I'll let you know. I'll probably do it on Saturday some days, but probably not anytime soon, because I watch football on Saturday, so I'm probably not going to be streaming. Unless I stream myself watching football, but usually I hang out with friends. Maybe I'll do like a live hanging out with friends stream, and you can just watch us like get drunk and yell at the football screen. Is there a type of YouTube video that doesn't fit your theme that you're interested in doing? Well, that's kind of what my second channel is going to be for. I honestly want to do just more fun stuff. Like, I want to do like challenges and reactions and like stuff like that. Like, I like that kind of YouTube stuff. I don't know if a lot of you do, but I like that kind of stuff, and I want to do more of it. But I don't think it fits the scope of my main channel. But that's what the second channel is for. Am I bringing a guest next Sunday? Probably not, but maybe. What's my football team? Well, currently I'm talking about college football, and then my team is Alabama Crimson Tide. My NFL team is NFL is Green Bay Packers. I know you've mentioned being in fighting games. What fighting games do you play? Currently none, but my main game has always been Smash Brothers, but I'm about to pick up Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and then I'm planning to get really into Dragon Ball FighterZ. I think that's going to be my main game when it comes out, but that's like a year from now. What do you think about PewDiePie? I like PewDiePie. I just think he's an idiot. Do you like soccer? I like soccer. I just don't follow it very well. Give me a shout out as a Canadian fan. Shout outs to Grim Canyon from Canada. You do videos about movies again. Just like, yeah, I mean, like video essays about movies. Yeah, I'm gonna do like my next video, or maybe my next or the one after that, is gonna be a lot different than the normal video, and I'm gonna see how people react to it. But I think you'll definitely start seeing a more varied type of video on my channel. Oh, Grim Crayon. I don't know why I read that like that. Thoughts on Dick Coughlin? He seems cool. I've only watched a few videos, but one video he made in response to Chris Ray Gun, I think, is like one of the best videos I've seen in a while. Ever played Bioshock? I started Bioshock, but it was hard. I need to go back. I think I quit because I got stuck, and I just never picked it back up. Alright guys, thank you for coming to my stream, and I will be streaming next Sunday at the same time. And feel free to, if you want to ask more in-depth questions, feel free to email me at hello@the1janitor.com. Feel free to follow me on social media if you have it. I'm on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook. All of those are The One Janitor, just like my YouTube channel name. And if you'd like to support me or the stream, consider becoming a patron. Patreon.com/The One Janitor. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.